and one from SSI for $59,600. Two companies that were requests were sent to Mitchell and Stark, and Jim Fisher did not submit quotes. SSI had a couple of exclusions. They excluded bonds, which were not required as part of the requirements. And they also excluded electrical, and there is some electrical in the project. There's not very much, but there is some. So with that, I'll take any questions. Hopefully this can be decided tonight by the council how to get forward.
There was some question about whether or not they could do it according to the plan. Has that been resolved with Anderson?
No, whoever the representative that was here the day we opened the bids, I put in contact with Dale Hubbard, our electrician, and there hasn't been anything developed since then. What started that was apparently one of the, which I thought this guy, and so did Dale Hubbard, some guy named Leon, which must have been one of the bidders. I come to find out after your representative was here. You know what I'm talking about,
Brad?
Is that the same Brad? Okay. Anyway, come to find out this Leon was with one of the bidders, not with BL Anderson. And there's some confusion on what meter went where, and that would obviously be a great factor in, you know, one meter went to the front barn and the second meter went to the meter went to this structure or what. So that is one reason SSI excluded the electrical bid, because we want to figure out for sure what this is entailing and where the meters, you know, the proper place for the meters are. We just want to make sure it didn't backfire on us, but obviously when we put in the fusion pumps, there was some electrical that wasn't determined, or somebody was supposed to do this versus us doing this. I mean, it worked out fine, but I just want to make sure we've got everything rock solid. So I asked the board to wait on getting the bid until we find out exactly from B.O. Anderson where the meters go. And Brad said he would, I said, he's my electrician, you can contact B.O. Anderson directly, and he said, I will take care of that. I said, okay, here's the electrician's name, here's his number, and I did that vice versa with the electrician. So,
Okay, so where does it stand then? SSI did not include electrical in their bid. I'm assuming Grace did.
They didn't exclude it, so I would assume that they would have to include it. How much electrical are we talking about? Is it just some sensing line?
It is running, is putting a new transmitter in the existing control panel and then running cable and conduit from there to this new infrastructure.
So that's about it.
Yeah, the intent was the old meter, the existing meter comes out.
right.
Right. Existing meter and transmitter. And this one takes its place.
Okay, but you were talking about there might be a load problem. A distance problem for load. At the last meeting where we talked about this, you were saying that there was possibly a distance problem where you could have that much distance or something like that.
Well, distance being number one, and number two was one of the construction companies was confused on if the meter went in the front shed or if it went back there where the effluent goes. Apparently it went back there where the effluent goes. Well, he gave our electrician the understanding that one meter goes to the front shed and the other meter goes to the front. So that's what got everybody on pins and needles, kind of wondering what. And that Brad was supposed to get clarified with our electrician
there also a discussion with whether or not we should actually put it or replace it, or just seal this one and, wasn't that a discussion?
Oh, that was in the discussion, yeah, we talked about perhaps just abandoning the old structure in place rather than trying to tear it out, because it might cause dam problems and everything else doing that. I don't know when you had looked at it, if you thought that was still a possibility. We got that idea from Denver. He was looking at it and thought that it might be better just to abandon it in place and set a new one next to it over there somewhere. That might make some more pipe work.
Make a lot more pipe work.
Yeah.
And you have to trench.
You still have to dig out the dam and trench
That
the
would
pipe.
be more, that would compromise the integrity of that dam, more so than the pipe you're doing. Well, if they just take out the old one, plop the new one in right over the pipe.
Yeah.
So I don't have any concerns about that.
Okay, well, then we'll just maybe just leave it the way it is and let Terry roll it out.
Well, I do want to clarify the record, because I did ask you last month about the IDEM permit, and you did check and you sent me an email and said for sure that this, and I can give you a copy of that permit, but that this does not require an IDEM permit, which was something that we had a little bit of concern about. Okay, one other thing.
Well, I guess our problem now is, would we proceed without the electrical, or?
I don't know that you have a responsive bid for subsurface. The electrical was part of the plan and specs that we're supposed to be bidding on, right?
Yeah.
So it's not an alternate, it's not
Correct.
something that was added later, it was part of the base project as described. If they're excluding it, I don't think that their bid is responsive.
Well, they're excluding it on my suggestion.
Okay, well, it's whatever the reason is, I think that we invited bids for a scope of work that was defined. And they submitted a bid that doesn't cover the entire scope of that work. And I think we have to assume that Graves' bid is for the entire scope of work.
Yeah, you can exclude anything.
But I don't understand what you're talking about. I understand there's an issue with the electrical. I don't understand what the nuances of that are. I guess my inclination would be to reject both bids, write a more detailed spec on the electrical, so that there aren't any questions remaining about what's going to happen. If there are alternatives, people are suggesting different things, I think the town's engineer needs to say, this is how it's going to be done, with enough description that everybody understands. And then invite bids again based on that additional description being included in the specs.
Well, now, these bids, they include the price of the precast, or they exclude the price of the precast? The precasting, I think you told me it was like $30,000.
It includes the bids.
So it would not, the 30 would be over and above this. Oh, it's included. That's what I thought you said, no, I wasn't sure.
Well, that's what the guy that built it said too. He said that he gave the numbers to them and that they included in their number to us.
Because I don't remember that in there, okay.
I think the problem is with the lowest bid we have, is we don't know what the cost of the project is going to be.
Right. You could wind up being higher than the other guy.
And at this point, I don't know that we understand what the project is in that detail.
Well, the SSI bid, I didn't print all this off. I think I forwarded it to a couple of guys. I mean, they had a whole bunch of specs.
They had all the components. I think the only thing they didn't have in their bid was the actual electrical wiring itself, because they weren't sure where it was going. And at least that was.
But how would Graves be sure where it's going?
I don't know. Maybe
I mean, do we assume that they are? Are they just taking the risk that they'll do it for that
I
cost?
think they took the risk.
And can it be described?
I think it's pretty well described.
You think it is now? same bid to start with. And then the electrical's added on one. I mean, this isn't such a range in bids that is, I mean, you're going to have some disparity. That's why, we're required to pick the lowest. But I don't think we can consider SSI as a responsive bid. I just don't think we can. Because they have taken it upon themselves to exclude something. They don't have that option bid invitation there in the instructions to say you can bid it with electrical or you can bid it without electrical.
Right.
Or you can, bid this at alternates 1, 2, 3, and 4, or not bid them or whatever.
Yeah, it was
a scope
incumbent
of
on
work.
them to clarify it first before they.
But that's my fault.
Yeah, it wasn't clarified to, again, I don't know if it was one, I don't think it was Fisher. I think it possibly was the other.
Leon's with Mitchell Stark.
Okay.
He did send me an email.
Yeah.
He was
the one that got the whole
meter
ball.
to be located out at the upland structure, or was it to be located up in the little.
Yeah, that's what got the ball started.
Well, but is that the question that the SSI has? The location of the meter? That you're saying
there are
it's clear and the specs where it's supposed to go?
Yeah, we need to clarify that.
The Mitchell Stark got the same question.
No, I only got the question from Mitchell Stark.
That's what I mean, but if it's clear enough in the specs, then why would Mitchell Stark have asked for additional information on it? I mean, it sounds like we'd have at least two bidders.
That's why I say I told SSI, I'm not sure how this is going to go. I mean, where it's going to go. So that's why I say that that's my fault. That I told SSI not to bid because there was a question, and obviously another contractor did question it also. So,
And did the instructions say where to direct questions? Did they say to direct them to you, or direct them to you, or is that included in there?
I believe it is. Another contractor questioned it?
Mitchell Stark.
Bid.
right.
So the other guy questioned it too?
Yes.
To Gary?
Yeah, Mitchell something, whoever said.
Yeah, it was in the request for folks, the direct questions.
And he asked my electrician.
It does say to you. Well, I don't know. I think the predicament we have is under the bidding statute, you have to take the lowest responsible bid. If a bid is not responsive, then it's not eligible. Doesn't meet the criteria. The lowest bid we have, which is the one that you were sort of required to take, it is not bidding the full scope of work. And we talk about how they're confused, or whether they should have been confused. Jeff answering a question rather than Gary, but it doesn't really matter. I think they were confused. They were looking for clarification, not knowing for certain what they were getting into. They just said, well, we're not going to include that in our bid. That's their prerogative, but I don't, we said bid on this project, and they said, we'll bid on this project, or we're going to carve out this little piece of it. Well, that's not responsible. And the risk that you would have taking the next item, first of all, it's $9,000 more, and we ought to be reluctant to do that. But secondly, if you don't take it, my concern would be that Grace Plumbing would come along and say, wait a minute, you were required to take the lowest responsible bid. That's us. We are the lowest, because we're the only responsive
Do
bid
you
that
also
you got.
have a responsibility that he told them not included in the bid?
What's that?
Well, Jeff told them to exclude it out of their bid.
Yeah, well, that's
Is that another problem?
you have the absolute right to reject them all. And I think
Well, Jeff
that,
doesn't. He's not on the council.
not saying you,
Yeah.
you being the council.
But what I'm saying is that Jeff told the guy not to include it in his bid.
Right.
And so the guy didn't. And he took an unauthorized individual's word to exclude it from the bid.
Mm-hmm.
But do we have a problem there?
No.
If we don't.
I think if you reject them all, you don't have to give anybody any explanation for that.
So the thing for us to do is reject all of them?
I think so.
And send them out for rebid?
And the fact that Mitchell Stark also asked for clarification on the same issue, I think it makes it very, very easy to defend a decision to reject. And you don't have to defend it. I mean, we reserve the right to reject all bids, and that's what you can do. But the fact that we've gotten into this discussion about why it may be important in what we ultimately do when the next round of bids comes through. But the fact that we had more than just one contractor raises the question about where the meter was supposed to go or how the electrical detail was supposed to be done or whatever. I think gives a lot of credibility to your decision to reject them because there was some confusion. We don't know, as we sit here, whether Graves might have submitted a lesser bid. But they were confused, and they erred on bidding a little bit higher, not knowing for sure what they might be getting into. All that aside, if you reject them all, that's fine. No one can challenge your decision. Well, they can challenge. They don't have a viable claim if you decide to reject all bids. If we took SSI's bid, we got a problem because there's a claim that Graves could make that wasn't responsive, it wasn't eligible. So you shouldn't have considered it. Suppose if we took Graves, we're spending $9,000 more, not sure what we're getting for it, and suppose subsurface we claim, well, ours was responsive. Or we were told to leave it out.
Yeah, I think SSI has a bigger claim.
So I think any time in a public bidding scenario, when there isn't a lot of urgency in the project getting done, I don't think another 30 days causes this project not to get done on a schedule that it has to be done.
It's going to take us that long to get the money anyway, but now I know how much money will go
But
on.
you know, if we're talking about whether or pricing or materials or, you know, something that is so precarious that we don't have any time to waste, or, you know, we're going to lose our financing or something, then you maybe stretch yourself and you make decisions that cause you to worry. In a case like this, where I don't sense that any of that urgency exists, when you have confusion in a bid process, you reject the bids.
Well, there was another confusion, wasn't there, or not confusion, but a question about whether the was all there, the arm wasn't there, was it? Was the arm there?
Well, yeah, he was providing it, or no, they were providing it. The precast guy was providing everything that was mounted on the precast.
Mounted on the precast.
And I'm not sure if him or the other guy were providing the arm, but the arm was being provided in the bid. That was what I understood from
But
it.
it's not with the
But it wouldn't
precast.
come from the precast
I don't
guy.
think we provide them on contract.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, but I mean, it wasn't,
Trying to figure out if
it wasn't in the precast bid.
That all came up when I asked the precast guy if everything was in that box when he shipped it. And
Yeah.
then we started talking about loose pieces and things, and that's when that came up.
If we reject them, can you just make it a little more clear or send it back out?
Yeah. we can.
Make a motion, we reject the bids and make it a little more clear.
I'll second it.
Yeah.
There's 3 seconds, okay. Discussion, all those in favor?
Before we,
Okay.
if we're doing that and we're sending it back out, I was concerned about the fact that bonding wasn't required. They're gonna have to set a giant crane down at the bottom there, lift this 26,000-pound box up and drop it in there. I think that bonding wouldn't cost a lot, but it would be, I think it would be prudent.
When you say body, what are you referring to? Generally, you get.
I refer to a contractor that screws up and goes broke and we don't perform the budget. Right. That's what I'm talking about. Performance.
So we'll account for that in their price. It generally runs roughly 2% of the price of their body.
Right. It's not an expensive thing, but it's a nice thing to have because I've seen it happen. And I just wonder, for no more money than it's going to cost us to include that in there. I just, if it was something like they were building us a deck, like I said, I wouldn't be worried about it. But if they're going to take this crane and stick it way out there and drop a 26,000 pound, just getting that crane back there is going to be a trip. And they can screw up. they could drop it, they could tip over into the, and it could belly them or something. You know, I've just seen stupid stuff like that happen enough that I think for no more cost than it is, I think it'd be prudent to have it in there.
Okay,
If
so
we can include that.
we're
Yeah.
include the
If we
performance.
send it back out, let's send it back out with the performance
So
bond.
that would be included in the, sending it out for rebid. Any other discussion? All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. No opposition. Okay, Gary, what else have we got?
We'll see back out the schedule on the recent,
Oh, yes.
we talked about this timetable for the next submission of bids.
Yes. These bids will be submitted by what? What's your date?
Well, when's your next board meeting?
September,
First.
first, if you guys want to meet on Labor Day, if we met on Labor Day in the past, that's up to you guys. Was the Labor Day meeting okay with you, evening of Labor Day?
Yeah.
Okay, it'd be September 1st, is that okay?
Yeah,
September 1st.
just trying to think, the bidders didn't come to the bid opening before the day. Present.
No, the precast.
Precast guy was
Precast
there.
guy was
Okay.
here. Will that be okay?
Yeah.
You sure? I mean, we can have a special meeting between now and then because we've got a couple of other things that in August we'll have to probably clear up. We have our budget meeting
Good.
with DLGF on the 12th, so we could very possibly have a special meeting the following week.
And for time constraint, I think that's a good idea, because we're getting down to the
Yeah.
wire.
Oh, yeah,
It might be, and no more than they're revising in their bids. They could do that overnight almost, you know, I mean.
I think we still got to give 7 days.
Right.
Yeah.
You gotta allow them to
Yeah,
give us
yeah,
time.
7 days, but what I'm saying, not 30.
Right.
So what do you think then, Gary?
I'd like to give them a day or two before your next meeting. So
Well, we have our meeting with the DLGF on the 12th, Sharon, isn't that right? And we'll probably meet, I would say, by the 19th. So maybe the 18th, Monday the 18th?
I think you need to give them more time. I think what's important
That gives
is,
us 14 days.
yeah, it's not a matter of how quickly we get them. You're going to need to open the bids, have them reviewed. It won't take long, but if Gary takes them back, like I said, and to make sure they're responsible and comply. Then you're going to have to meet to take action on it.
Well, the opening, though, we don't have to have, we don't have to have a meeting for that, right? That's
You don't have to
Yeah.
convene the whole council. But if you say 2 weeks, you know, he needs a few days anyway to, I don't know what his schedule is, but he needs a little bit of time to write this detail and re-invite the bids. It's the same form, but changing the dates and all that stuff, and getting them out and letting people know we're going to rebid this.
we can do that.
Then you got 7 days, you know, so probably no less than 2 weeks. The 18th would be the minimum amount of time, I would say. Then the question is, after they're open then, are you going to meet before your September meeting to award a contract and authorize the issuance of the notice to proceed?
Well, we will probably have a meeting before our September meeting to go over our budget.
Okay.
I think, I mean, maybe.
Is that what you're talking about, the 18th?
Sometime in that week, because we'll need to go over after we get the final income figures from the DOJ.
Well, I would think 18th would be the soonest you want to open bids. And then,
Is that okay?
then I think you could decide at that meeting whether you wanted to schedule another special meeting a few days or a week later for the purpose of awarding the contract and issuing a notice to proceed. You alternatively, which is pretty common too, and this is pretty simple, and you've been here already, is to do a conditional award contract at the meeting on the 18th. To say we award it to the lowest responsible bidder, subject to Gary determining that everything looks okay, and off you go. But you can decide all that night, or that day, whenever time you meet.
Okay.
Does it make any sense.
Yeah, it's just,
Either that or the other alternative would be if we opened them on the 17th, which is a Friday. And, well, that probably wouldn't do either, or not, 17th, 15th, that probably wouldn't. We'll just make it the 18th. What do you think? What were you going to say? You think the sooner?
I was gonna say we're the most generous state in history. I've had to stay up all night long and redo the entire bid and have it out the next morning. You know, and then they bid on it with municipalities in Illinois. So I understand that, you know, we're not in a rush to do that, but we're not talking about, moving the thing to the other end.
No.
We're talking about adding in a little bit and some writing. I'm fine with the 18th. I'd have been fine with tomorrow.
Yeah, we gotta have the 7 days.
Yeah, I know.
Well, Gary, why don't
Okay.
you tell us? You tell us when you want the bids open. And we'll
18th
have,
is fine. If we do the 18th, I'd like to do it in the afternoon,
okay,
so they're not scurrying to put it together first thing in the morning. So
Okay.
say 2 o'clock on the
2
18th.
o'clock. Okay, that'll work. 2 o'clock.
We'll get it out by the end of the week. We'll have it 7 days.
Okay.
Send it to the resend of the same 4, and the other 2 still may not submit.
We'll see what happens. Okay, anything else, Gary?
Just to give you an update on the deep chlorine, Jeff can chime in. I came down a few weeks ago just to check out the setup and look over a few things, and still having trouble meeting the dechlor limit. I had Adam Downing, no relation to Jeff, our operations specialist, come down last Monday and did a bunch of different tests on clean water, chlorinating it, dechlorinating it, just ran through the gamut, and was just baffled that still wasn't getting it. And then Dave Denman came down a few days later using some Adam's information and determined it was something with the testing apparatus. They kind of figured it out, and my understanding is at least minutes worked. I don't know if they discharged much, but
Is it working still? Do you know?
Yeah, that's Bobby basically handled that, and,
Is it still working, Bonnie?
I did it all last
Is
week.
it doing what it's supposed to do?
Yeah.
Okay, well, that's good. Decor.
Took some fine tuning.
So we can go ahead and pay that building to be on it, right? Because we kind of, I mean, I think it's in her claims, but we were going to talk about it.
Yeah, right here.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, you have anything else?
that's all I have.
Okay, well, thank you. Thank you for making the trip down.
We'll get that full package sent back out by the end of the week.
Thanks.
Thanks.
Thank you. Okay, we have minutes from the 2 July meetings, July 7th and July 11th. Or any additions or corrections? Paul, Roger, Chad? No. Nothing. Minutes will stand approved as submitted.
I just wanted to ask, do you like the detailed minutes? I mean, do you want me to go around in there?
Okay. What do you think? What do you think? What do you think?
I think from a historical perspective, if you go back and look at minutes from Morgantown, the previous administrations, it says, okay, we met, okay, we close out. I didn't say nothing. So I like the detail. I think
Well, I
it's,
just wanted to make sure.
I mean, I hate for you to sit and waste a lot of time on it, but probably there'd be some outlining you could do rather than ever go to the conversation. I think you do a certain amount of it,
If you put one thing in, I would try to release
But-
it out.
but I know from reading a couple of the old meeting minutes, they didn't say nothing.
Okay. We have our July 2014 financials. We're going to start with the current report or what?
Fund report's fine. I have any questions?
The fund report now, is that's balanced?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
The stormwater is, I started it.
That's all right. That's now. Okay. Okay, the fund report, you guys have any questions? I put this together because I wanted you guys to see this. On the fund report. Because this will come into some of our budget discussion later. You know, this time last year, we were scrambling, scared to death on our budget. And so the one that I sent around is that July 2013, that's balanced, and the one we have up here is this year. And if you look at our general fund, we're a little bit healthier. 125,000 versus 90,000. And our MVH were healthier there versus 26,007 versus 58,600. So, those budget cuts that we made last year, did you see where I'm at? This one and this one, this one. This year, last year, this year, this is this year. And that's last, this is last year. But we are in a healthier position. We're still not where we were the 2 years prior to that, 175,000 that year. But we are.
We're on the map.
This one? Okay, this is last year. Okay. And then, yeah, here is this year. So and that, like I say, that will come into discussion more when we have our
It's a
budget.
directly attributable to you having done it last year.
We scrambled.
Well, you did, but I mean, you sat down, all of you did, and took a hard look at it, and cut it, and now you're seeing it.
It wasn't pleasant, was it?
So that's what I mean, it really wasn't. But here's your reward for having done it. So,
Yeah, because that
you
is.
celebrate your good part.
Yeah. Okay, so how do you want Shannon here?
Okay, do you have any questions on the appropriation ordinance?
It's not a question so much on the appropriation report as it is that line. This 1590 miscellaneous, is that a line that you can use?
Yeah, we could use it.
We can use it. Well, we'll talk about that later when we get to the budget. Yeah, okay.
But I made those changes.
Okay, anybody have any questions on the appropriation?
Revenue report, do you have any questions about the revenue that we received in July?
Oh, I know what I was looking for. Does this show, on our water, does it show what we have left on the grant? Is that a line in here? The planning grant on the water?
No, I can figure it out. I made a project for Jeff, for the project at the station house. And I could have done that for the planning grant as well. There's a software, software that I can make a project and keep track of it all.
Because, where is that showing on here now? The reason I ask is because remember when the auditor came, and the previous, it was over previous years, and they had taken grant funds and they could not account for exactly how they were spent. And so his suggestion was that you keep that kind of, where you always have that, know where the grant money is and how it's spent.
Yes, and we have a grant, we have right here, this grant. Is this what you're talking about, Dawn?
The 40,000 that came in. The 40,000 that came in, and then how do we know how much of that 40 is left?
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? So,
Okay.
because I think you'll want to have that, because I remember.
What does that, if that is, what does that report? That's 24,000, right?
That's 24,000 that we did get for the planning grant. Well, we haven't got all the money.
So we haven't actually got 40,000.
It comes
That is-
from separate,
Oh, that's
That
right.
is reported.
It's in, it is on your fund report here.
Because they-
Okay.
Well, it's on the revenue, it's on the revenue report
But
too.
it's on the fund report too, I see it. Because that was,
They don't give us all the
Yeah.
money at once.
because that was, I remember last
So
time.
I made a separate fund for it,
Okay,
to keep it separate.
Okay.
okay, good. Now, let's see here. Appropriations, income.
Have any questions
not about the report, but when did we get our riverboat? Do you know?
It was supposed to be in August,
August, okay.
so we should be getting it
Yeah.
soon.
Anybody have any questions on the revenue report?
Well, as just a thought while you're talking about our riverboats, have they talked about what they expect to be paid out? Because I know those things are not making money.
I don't know, it'd be surprised to me, I mean, as far as, you know.
Well, last year I think it was 5,900.
Yeah,
It's always around 5,000.
It's not a great amount, it's a nice little help.
I just saw an article about the riverboats.
Yeah.
You just sort of ward off.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's see, payroll.
Anybody have any questions on payroll? Anybody have any questions on payroll? Is there a motion to approve payroll? Second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Unanimous.
Did you see your document?
No, not yet, we haven't looked.
No, that's next. Doctor's next.
Okay, have you got any questions about the docket and any of the claims?
I have one. I have a question. Okay, on the, okay, it's on the electric, Duke Energy.
Yeah,
You paid, the water and wastewater, and then you reimbursed. And I found all of the entries except this 239.75. And I didn't find that entry. The $239.75. I see back here on 7/29, you wrote the check. I'm on page 18. Page 18, you wrote the check for $239.75 to reimburse due.
okay,
General.
so the 239.75.
And $239.75. I probably just looked right by it, but I didn't see where you paid it.
Which one was?
On page 5.
Yeah,
On
I
page
see.
5, I didn't see $239.75. I found the rest of them, $201.67, $16, $438.70, $19.06, and $156.37. Those were the water and wastewater due payments, but you paid $239.75 out of wastewater electric to general to reimburse, but I didn't see where that check was written.
Okay,
Did you see what I mean?
yeah, I
On
see.
page 5.
I will check it and let you know what I'm sorry.
On your numbers, like, that's the bill number?
It's the one that we get that has a multiple
Yeah.
on here in their water, wastewater, and,
But your numbers coincide, right? I mean, this is 8060, so the one we're looking for is an 8060-2674-02,
okay,
right?
yes.
I didn't see
it,
where that,
I don't see it either.
I didn't see where that one was paid.
I just wonder, okay, well, I'll check it.
And then this does have the check to E.L. Anderson, 5147 for the fusion pumps, or for the dequo pumps, Jeff. Anybody have any other questions, or any questions on the claims? Is there a motion to approve claims? Is there a second? Second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. No opposition. There's a payroll on there. Okay. And your note here, we'll see how that goes with the 987.21.
I did get a $33 check that August 1st, yes.
Oh, okay, good.
So
So that'll come off
it
too.
took a while, I was beginning to think I was going to have to call it, but
But that will come
yeah,
off of this. Okay, good.
I deposited it in payroll.
Okay, adjustments for water customers.
The first one, scales gas and electric. months together, $210 minus what it been for 2 months. They're showing an overcharge of $115.71. I'm asking for that to be adjusted off for sewer.
Make a motion that we adjust it.
Second one is Randy, Andrew and Randy Hall. They had a leak, 7 and 8 water, and the average was 27.58. And so we took it by 2 months, 69.57 minus what it been for 2 months, 55.16 would be the overcharge of $14.41. And that's for that to be adjusted.
Make a motion that we adjust it.
Approve, all those in favor of those two adjustments, say aye.
Aye.
The next one, I have is on Sharon Camp at 259 Morgan Street. She, like was a snowbird, and she went to Florida, and then she came back, and she said when she came back that there was a water leak, and she had made a remark that it was a water leak due to the water meter was left turned on a little bit, and because of that, it caused damage, and she's asking for $150. I noticed on that month that she's asking for, only 1,000 gallons of water was actually used if there was a leak. If it was because of us, it was only 1,000 gallons used. But also, she's saying because the meter was left on. I did talk to some people about that, and they said that if the meter was left on, while, possibly turned on a little bit, the water would have froze in the winter, and it would have caused a really huge leak of a lot more than 1,000 gallons. And so the person, I talked to Roger Season about it, and Roger Season told me that it had not been left on. When they turn the water off, then you have to drain the pipes yourself. And once you drain the pipes yourself in the house, then there wouldn't have been that problem, and there wouldn't have been any damage to pipes or whatever in the basement. So I don't know, it's a board decision whether they want to, whether we pay the $150 to Sharon Camp or not, I don't know.
Let's hit the sewer credit.
No, we're just not a sewer credit, but Sharon's not on a sewer credit, but it's for labor.
Do you think it would be possible for her plumber to come and talk to us? What's
Yes.
your attitude? Do you guys think that'd be a good idea? I mean, if he's saying that it's the town's fault because, because the meter reading stayed the same, and it does make sense that if the pipe had been frozen and then thawed, there would have been a huge leak.
Right.
And not just,
So I'm going to call him and ask him.
the meter didn't run.
And call him and ask him to come in and not call and look.
Does that not make sense or what?
Does that
Well, I don't
make sense?
understand, how could the water have been flowing into her house if the meter wasn't turned on?
It wasn't the water, it was actually,
And the meter wasn't turned, I think what you said was the meter wasn't turned off all the way, it didn't shut the water flow
that's
off
what she
completely.
said. That's what she
If
said.
it didn't though, the water would still have been running through the meter. So when the water was turned back on when she came back, if the meter started reading the flow again, then that tells us the meter's working okay. The meter was registering the flow before,
Right,
and when the water's turned back on, the meter starts registering the flow again.
right.
But this water that's flowing through because it wasn't shut off all the way, doesn't get read by the meter?
Yeah, it should be read by that meter.
Well, if you say, and also the meter's broken, then the meter wouldn't start reading the flow again when the valves turn back open.
Right.
But I don't understand how the water could have been flowing in her house. Come on.
No, it's not.
That just makes sense to me. Is that right?
Yeah, that wasn't really anything to bring up, but. No.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Well, is this something we're going to deny or we're going to?
I move that we deny it unless they got a little better proof than just.
Is there a second to that one? Discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. No opposition. Okay. So, now,
I'm kind of concerned about the $150 deposit that we're having on, because we have a lot of renters come in, and they leave lots of times, or skip town, whatever, and we're stuck with a bill that's usually more than $150. And so I'm calling the owner of different ones, making calls on that. So I'm thinking we probably need, I just have some examples here where it's a little bit more than 150, we post around 125. And so I'm asking that maybe you raise this. If you And I want to make it fair for them, but I also want to make it fair for us, instead of everybody chasing them down or chasing the owner down or telling the owner about it. I don't know what the best answer to do is. And it's like showing you that David and being a shepherd. And the owner said he'd pay it if David didn't. So like I'm following up on some of those. And then the Ken Abbott, he owes more, but he said, I called him, he said he'll pay it. But then we have another one, Jamie and Tyler Gregory, where they're, they've been late a lot, and their deposit back when they had a deposit was only $125, and they still have $196.52. So I'm either gonna, put that lien on or whatever, or kind of keep working with the owners and Jamie both to see if that will be paid. And so another one, we have Louisa Armstrong.
Let's kind of stop there on the Gregory. So they, I'm looking at this right, they write down the $196.
Right.
And you've already applied the $125 credit.
And that's, of course, the
So
final
their
bill.
balance was 320, some dollars.
Let's see, we need to build one more cycle.
I don't understand, I guess that.
Up to $320, but how did?
If their water charge, if their water charge runs at, say, 46, 50 and 50 is $100 a billing cycle, right? So that's 2 months of unpaid plus some penalties.
Right.
And so,
But they needed, because it was later on, so they needed to bill for one more cycle because they were already over 2 months. So we only had billed for August, which needed to be billed because we're always a month behind. But like their water bill charge, it's not a normal $59.53. It's like $107.68 in July, and then what was June.
have they moved out now? Are they on?
They moved out and they said something about, they may come back to town, I don't know. But I'm just wondering if we could make something, if they do come back to town, start a new house, we can say, you owe this past bill, you need to pay this before you can, have water service again or something. I don't know what the answer is.
So, I guess I'm trying to understand this. It looks like
The last payment was on 6/18.
last payment was June 18.
But they were like always a month behind.
7, when were they shut off? 7/16?
I don't know if it's 7/16 or, yeah, probably around 7/16. Well, no, it had been later than that when they were shut off. Because I billed for 8, so it was, or maybe it was 7/16, because it would have been due for August, probably around that time, yes. And no payment. But they only had $125 deposit instead of $150.
But I mean, even if that is, $25, it's still giving a balance of $171 after you pay the deposit.
And the bill's not being applied to water before sewer? It's applied
this
to
one.
Loretta or how?
Honestly, I should have went ahead and let the bill for the August cycle, then posted the 125, but I was thinking I had to get that checked.
No, I just mean it's a matter of practice, like these folks. If the money that comes in is applied to water first,
Right,
then that runs up the sewer delinquency.
exactly, and that's
And we
what.
have a lien that we can file on that. If it's just divided pro rata or something, the water side of the remaining bill that we're stuck with, we can't get.
I know.
If we
That's
can
what,
put it all on the sewer side,
right,
then at least we have that lien.
that's exactly right.
Okay. And if that's not the practice, I think it can be, and I think that's the best for the town. It is? Okay.
Well,
Your water system.
it is in our system to do that, it's just that I should have probably,
on the payment on June the 18th, they had a balance of $229, they paid $120, and it was split.
It is split.
It is in July.
And but it usually doesn't, so I don't know if it's just only the
It looks like all the way down through here it's been split.
It
So
should have done that
it
way.
isn't doing it on this one.
Yeah, it's supposed to do it that way. And I've watched the system and see it.
That's one thing that would help.
And then I'll call, Keystone on this one. Because it should have went all the way, that payment should have all the way went to water, like you said.
Well, and the next one you have here, I'm looking at it, it's $256, and they had $150. So their bill was $306.
Well, their water bill for July was $187.37 for just that one bill in July. And I don't know what could possibly have a leak, or just turned the water, got mad, turned the water off and left, who knows? But
See,
that's
their
a huge
bill
bill.
is payment that they made is split too.
Yeah, that
They
should
have
not
about
happen.
$270.
I'm gonna call Keystone on those two, because it shouldn't have done that way on those two. It should have went directly, and I watched it when I posted it, where it goes directly to water, those payments, so that should not happen on both of those, so I'm gonna have to reverse that and redo it, and I'll call Keystone on those two. But still, yeah, with the $150, even though, the two I call, but I've watched it do it, and it's always. Yeah, it posts like that.
I don't see an example.
Yeah, but it. I'm gonna copy some.
I mean, it is a lot of money.
That is a lot.
It's a lot of money, but
Yeah, it
can we
should
make
not
our
have done
deposit so big that nobody?
Oh, no, I don't like that.
I say we just
I don't like that.
we just have to chase
No.
these.
I don't like that on the deposit.
Well,
Go ahead.
one I'll pass this out on this. I have a memo for everybody. But I think on this particular subject, and we can get into this however much you want to this evening, but on just on this issue of he's sharing, he's still here to share. Well, she didn't.
Okay.
Or you can have it.
Okay.
I'm got one.
On this business about deposits, one option would be to set the deposit the same as it always is, if that's 150, 125, whatever. If somebody is delinquent on a bill, I mean, you can do this however you all want to, but if they're delinquent once or twice, they have to pay in an additional amount. I think what we do know is folks who don't pay the utility bills on time tend to be the ones who habitually don't pay the utility bills on time. I'm guessing that you're
That's right.
struggling with the same customers
The
month
same
after
one.
month after
Yeah,
month.
the same ones.
And you've got the vast majority of folks in town who are paying utility bills right on time.
Right, there's
But
only
it's,
85.
and so, and there's going to be a hiccup along the way for a few people. There just is. But one way to hedge against this is if you are delinquent on a bill, or if you are twice, or if you are twice in 6 months, or however you want to set it up, you got to pay in an additional amount. So if you start with $150, you're paying another $50, or you're paying another $75. And if you're delinquent again, you're paying another $75. And what we're doing is we're assuming that folks who have been late twice or 3 times or whatever are the ones that pose the greatest risk of doing it like this, of leaving town with a balance. And so we have a larger deposit to apply. That helps. That would help with these. If we had built up that reserve, and when you say, Paul, I don't want to do that, it's too much to it is. To say to everybody in town, if you want to establish new service, it's $350. I mean, you're not going to do that. That's not fair to everybody who does do what they're supposed to. But for those who have proven to be problematic, to say, all right, now you got to pay a little bit more. And if you want to say, if they're good 6 months and they pay the bills on time, you can take it back. I mean, we can make it as simple or creative and cumbersome as you want it to be, but it's okay to make them pay more. It's not only okay from a home rule standpoint, it's statutorily addressed. It's something you can do. The rule sort of is, it shouldn't be more than 3 times the amount of an average bill. It's kind of...
Of an average minimum bill or an average?
Yeah, an average bill.
An average
So like
bill
these-
to that person, I mean,
Yeah.
okay.
How much late are you talking about?
Well, you're delinquent after 15 days.
Yeah, okay.
You're not suffering risk until about 45 days.
All right.
So,
Well, I guess one of the things that when you sent these, and I was looking at just these two alone are well over, and you've already applied your deposits, and they're well over $500. And I'm a minimum. I'm on the net, so I'm paying like $56 a month. That's like 9 or 10 customers in 2 people here. I know. I mean, and that's a lot of money.
Yeah, I was trying to figure out how they got to that point. What do you do? Just leave your hose on and then walk off?
they got a lot of people living there, or they got a lot of people staying with them, because that's really, really high use.
I mean, that's a lot.
I don't know.
I mean, we had a water leak and it wasn't that much money.
It is high, but it's consistently high. I mean, it's not an
Yeah, it's
aberration.
always money.
Then I think the other thing you do is make sure this is doing what you say it's doing.
I know, I watched it do it on some of them, but those two,
Well, but-
and on those two,
But,
it's not
if you can catch that,
right away.
a year ago instead of when they left, we can try to fix it and start moving that money to water and
Right.
building up the delinquency in sewer. That helps, because then we can file a lien, and that's simple. I mean, that's
Right, it is.
That's not reinventing the wheel. That's not asking people to pay more money. That's not raising deposits. That's not adopting an ordinance. That's just applying money.
Right.
And that would help. And then the other option you have, I think, is you just chase them more. Now, we talked about making landlords responsible for tenants. And that memo addresses all that. Well, we got a big meeting tonight, I know. I don't know how much.
I might just study this.
Yeah, we'll talk about it.
But that's the other option too, and that's what is happening in some other communities where you say if you're a landlord, it's your responsibility to pay the bill, you go get it from your tenant. I think there's a natural resistance to that. It may be the best and only decision. Well, what I want you to think about it, I think there are lesser offensive options that we can try short of doing that.
Well, you brought up the gradual deposit thing one at a time, and that sounded like it, because then you are targeting it to the individuals who are.
You brought it on yourself.
And you're not killing everybody else that pays everything.
That's
just
why.
like they always should.
Well,
And if they pay it, then they give it back. You know, at the end of the time, if they're current, here's your money back.
I also wonder, I mean, because these are all rental properties, and I wonder if at some point in time, when we do get high water bills, I mean, if I'm the landlord, I don't know these bills are that high. There's a problem somewhere. So, I mean, I'm wondering if we send the landlord.
It could be his pipes are junk, and he don't care because
Well,
the
that
other
could
guy's
be, but
paying
it
the bill.
could be that, you know, I don't know.
One thing you might learn as a landlord too, you think you're renting it to 2 people, and there's 7 people living there.
Yeah.
Well, we will discuss, we have this,
There's nothing wrong with us notifying the landlord that the bills are confusing.
No, and now, under the new legislation, we have to, if we're going to file a lien. You got that, I sent that note around to everybody.
Oh, okay.
So, yeah.
is that okay with you guys? We'll pick that up next time you have a chance to read these memos? Okay.
Send that around to Sharon.
Okay. Okay, so that takes care of it. You don't have any other adjustments, right? No. Okay, well, we are on this. We did talk about August 12th is the budget hearing, and the DLGF would like 2 council members to attend. And I want to know if there's any volunteers. I can go that day, if anybody else wants to go. Is it 12? It's a Tuesday.
Here's my problem with going. I got 5 months left on the board. This is about next year's budget.
Well,
I don't think it's appropriate for me to go talk about the budget. I'm not going to be responsible for it.
well,
Yeah.
the main thing too is just being able to bring back making sure that we hear everything correctly. So, I mean, I can go by myself. It doesn't have a problem.
I thought they wanted to
I'll bring my
go.
They do.
You can? No. Okay. No, I thought you were working. I think I'm working on it, yeah. But we'll talk about that then. Okay, you check, see if you're working. Mr. Downey?
Okay, in your packets, I guess I'll start off in order here. Just checking, I've been checking with some quotes on our trash, and currently we're paying $64 a week, is that right, Sharon, for the dumpster here? Well, I mean, whatever you get, I mean, yeah, $64 for the dumpster here, for the town, and $57 for the, okay, $58 for the ball diamond. I checked with Best Way, got a quote from them. Theirs is $106 total per week, so I mean, it's just
What's the no fuel thing mean?
no surcharge, I've seen. Yeah, surcharge, so the double
I
question.
didn't know they ever did fuel surcharge.
So are you
Nineteen days
letting
out.
me make a change? No, I get a fuel charge, surcharge on my own.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Are you making a recommendation we change?
Well, it's cheap, they're a little cheaper, and they seem to,
Who do we have now?
put them in,
64.58.
well, Southern Scavenger Food has just been recently bought out my,
I'll let them know what we can get for it.
they could have got, I don't have a problem going the Best Way, that's who gives us those recycle bins, and they're very good service to us. They helped us out when we were in a pinch on the cleanup days and everything, they were cheaper there, and plus they, and there was an issue at the ballpark.
Do we have a contract with the Republic?
So, just a little bit of safety in there. We had another reason, I mean, there was an issue with ball line when they had a bunch of tournaments. Southern Scavenger just flat wouldn't budge to get us an extra dumpster or anything down there. When we had an overabundance of trash, they did agree to take out the trash an additional day to compensate, but I mean, that was during the week. We had to go down there and dump trash cans that they had there because they would help out to do that, which, I mean, I'm not saying that that's part of their function to do that, but to not be able to get us another dumpster, I thought that was kind of not very good customer service.
So we're switching, so you want to switch?
Yes.
I'll make a motion to switch the Best Way.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
All those in favor for discussion, any questions? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Oh, when you go.
The other day we went through.
No, I'm just looking at these numbers. I didn't see.
Yeah, I don't know what route to go yet until we get on the water tower, we drain the water tower through our grant that we're trying to get on, our water grant. So one of those stipulations was we have to drain the water tower and have it inspected to see if any, if that's going to have to be replaced and go into the new grant. That was just recently done, we drained the water tower, went off the wells, which everything, to my knowledge, went very smooth there, with hardly any hiccups at all. The tank company has not got back to me yet, which they said it would be 2 weeks. Tank Industry Consultants. It's about towards the end of this week, it'll be 2 weeks before the final inspection from the engineers, the inspectors, broke down things, numbering system. So we're waiting to see where we have to go there on what repairs need to be done to our current tank to keep it up and running until, if we have to get a new tank, or if that means the repairs is going to be necessary to bring this one back up to snuff. So,
Is this to bring this back up to snuff? This is just Valley for $8,000.
But there are two different amounts, is it
Yeah.
two separate?
Yeah,
Yeah, that's what
there's two
One
separate
milestone.
quotes.
That was
Oh,
told there.
Yeah.
oh, but the one page is 7440, the
Yeah,
other
right,
page is 790. So is it
Two different things.
two different things? Oh, okay.
You know, one's interior, one's exterior.
Okay, so it'd be the total of the two.
Yeah, I mean, that's the separation of bids.
And this is just an FYI, because we don't know the
Yeah, we know
actual.
what route we're going to take, that's one of the reasons.
Anybody have any questions for him on that until we hear back from Hustler? Okay, what else you got here?
We have our proposals for the asphalting of Marion Street from north from Washington to over to Sycamore Street. Also, we're going to, which this is really going to be no expense, but we're going to shave the hill down a little bit right there in Morgantown on the Hickey Road, which turns into Marion Street. And Road Creek and John Hickey are going to provide their large excavator and bulldozer, so we're going to knock that out. No time.
You can shave off that hump right there at the
Yes.
old Stockton building there.
Where the, basically where the,
Yeah.
where
How's that going to
the-
affect that road coming onto Sycamore?
Sycamore is, we looked at that, it's still,
Just
yeah, there's
Still be
going
able to smoothly.
right, there's, we've got plenty of room to play with in there.
Okay.
Okay, well, okay, Chad, let's talk about it. Okay. We have three bids,
We have,
three
we
bids.
invited three on the paving work.
Yes.
So we have Monroe, Wallace, and Milestone. Okay,
But the three different areas are going to be bid on.
No, it's the same section.
Section Milestone had 760 square yards, and Wallace had 1,680 square yards.
let's see what did you say?
16, oh,
Yeah, I see what you're saying.
Add another 9,100, and we will build the entire 49-inch
What do you know about
Oh,
this
there's
guy?
that word for Paul, again, it's not the word for the bond. Doesn't include a bond, Paul. See, this one says on it, based on 4 times over 1,680. Yeah, here he says 780.
the milling was the 760, I believe, because I had it quoted where 4 inches is milled for the first block to Mulberry, second is milled 1.5 inches. That's why I think that's where you get the reflection of the two different yards.
They're out on Mill Same.
Right, I have a quote because, it started out with Omer stating definitely that the section between Marion and Mulberry needs to be milled to 4 inches, or the 4 inches, and the Mulberry to Sycamore to get away with 1.5 inches. But they're reflecting 2.5 is on milestones.
So Wallace had done the whole thing, Milestones done.
No, there's a reflection on the mill. That's what the difference is in the square yardage of what, that's why there's a breakup on what they're going to mill, at what depth and what.
But Wallace had done the whole thing 4 inches.
They're both at 1,680 square yards. Based on 1,680 square yards. They're both.
Well, we just got these tonight, we're gonna have, is it okay, because we're gonna have a special meeting on the 18th, probably to look at budget. Is is it okay if we vote on it then? And if we have any questions?
Why not?
Okay, if we have any questions, go ahead.
Well, but the same issues exist here as they did with our outfall structure.
Okay.
Is they need to be bidding on the same thing. And I know everyone's just looking at it right now, and if you decide after comparing them that it really is an apple-to-apple comparison, then that's okay. If it isn't, then, we've got sort of the same problem.
I see what you're saying.
Minor.
And I know, well, I don't know, I was going to say it's small, although it's not. I mean, we're ranging anywhere from 28,000 to 40,000. If this is helpful, if you want to do it, I've got sort of form instructions that I've been using probably for 15 years for street overlay, annual street overlay projects. They give instructions on what they have to provide, whether we want performance bonds or not, whether we want bid bonds or not, the insurance that we expect to provide, a sample contract, and then a bid form where you fill in the quantities.
I would definitely like to see.
And then they have to fill in the bid form, and everybody's filling in numbers on the exact same sheet. And so all you're comparing is the numbers, the price. Milestones use that. Milestone tends to get the work other places. And the forms have worked great there.
You want to do that?
And if you want to reinvite it, we'll just put it together. You can resend them and say, please resubmit your bid on these forms. And then the contracts attached, if we award it, we sign the contract as a part of the bid documents. They submit their certificate of insurance. They have to do the E-Verify and IRAN certificate. Now, they know they have to do statutory, but the contract requires that too. And then we issue them a notice of award and a notice to proceed. They got 45 days to get it done. Is that a reasonable amount of time? Is that okay to just supply him with that stuff? Then we shouldn't have to sit here and do this. They ought to all be submitting the same thing.
Yeah, that's what it's uniform, the only difference is the company's name.
It's easier for us and we eliminate the possibility.
Okay, so you'll get him the form then, and he can,
Okay.
yeah, I think that's the way to go.
Okay, Mr. Downey, that took care of that one. So what else you got tonight?
Paving, water, power. We have a fusion pumps online. Probably pretty much took care of that because everything came together.
How are they doing out there?
Yeah, all that.
How are they doing, Bob? How are those heating pumps doing?
I threw the ball to you because the water tower ran and the fusion pumps were going on the same time. I took the ball there and you took that.
They got all four of the pumps in, had a little trouble getting them placed. They're all four in. Three of the four are running right now. One of them broke a low joy that connects the electric motor to the propeller shaft that pumps water. They're going to come down tomorrow, but they had to move it to Thursday to repair it. Pretty much what happened is that it sucked trash in and it just
Oh, shoot.
blocked it up. So they're making screens to go over the suction to help prevent that. So, yeah, I don't know why they didn't put those on to start with, but I think they're still learning. But the pumps were great. I mean, the three that are, the fourth one was running, but they're in such bad shape.
But it won't be any expense to the town.
No.
Now, when are we going to do our next boat ride?
We're waiting on, I think we got to coordinate, and I think correct me if I'm wrong, I think Tracy Bradley wants to coordinate with Mike Napier to be involved in that. Is that correct?
What do they think, like 30 days after they turning, or?
I don't know.
We are, I remember which we have 5 weeks.
2 weeks, I think.
That's all we have, you mean supply left, or that's all more we do it?
That's all, yeah, we got that full supply, that's all we want to do it.
Oh, really? I thought it was October. Okay, any questions on the fusion pumps? Anything else?
At that point, the valve cam is in there and it's still doing its thing, we just don't put any more in, right?
Yes, he's definitely,
It's still
that has nothing to do with it.
With it working.
He's still planning on coming back and checking it, but I'm going to propose next month for us to get a salt barn. It's going to be anywhere from probably 20 to 26 feet wide, around 36 to 48 feet deep. And the height we're still looking at, obviously high enough for hopefully the town will be able to get in there and dump a little less skid steer. Number one, I want enough room to put the salt in there, plus have the skid steer back in there. The location I'm thinking is behind the basketball court with it facing, the entrance facing north off the Sycamore. And so if anybody else has any better ideas or locations, that's why I'm giving you a heads up now, so you guys can decide where you actually want it.
We look forward to that.
I know that at one point in time, they were talking about putting in a skate park right there next to the basketball court. I don't know how close you want to get to it, or you're going to leave part of that open in case I'm sure they want to.
Well, that's you guys have to figure out, decide what you want, but one thing I was thinking in the future, if we do the new buildings, which we need, pretty soon, I wanted to keep the east end of the property open for the garage town hall or whatever.
We'll see what you come up with. Anything else?
We did the hydrant testing, was on hydrants. The lowest was on the southwest corner of town, but it did not reach to where it would be a danger of any oil and certain things.
Oh, good.
And everything else was still running. I think it got down to 30-something, and every place else in town was running around with a meter in it, and then turning on the next hydrant over, everything was still staying within around 45 to 46 pounds with the hydrant on. The normal average pressure around town was around 55 to 56.
And this is August, so we need to do that big water test for the,
I-
I'll talk to you about.
Well, I had the tubes from Elements, if that's what you're talking about, the 8 tubes. I have those, just waiting to do those.
August, we did them in August last time, so yeah.
Yeah,
Okay,
I
good.
have those, we're ready to go.
Anything else for Mr. Bell?
Can I take back, could I ask you to reject these bids?
Or do we have,
I think so, because they're bids that are open bids to us that you invited, right?
Yeah.
And we're going to ask these folks to resubmit, so we probably.
We should
Yeah, we're more back to what you're wanting.
Okay.
Make a motion that we reject the asphalt bids.
okay. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Okay. Okay, Mr. Morgan.
I'm going to go ahead and introduce J.R. Wheeler, so he can get out of here and can wait a while. He is here, he's made application for reserves spot with Morgantown. I'll let him stand up and introduce yourself, tell him a little bit about your Johnson County experience.
I was in Johnson County for about 3 years. I'm also a professional race car driver, so it kind of ran into some, they have a lot more training, so it was just easier for me to resign there. I wanted to get to a little smaller town, which I live about 5 miles from here. I'm also own a trucking business up in Indianapolis. I've had it for 18 years. I got between 60 and 70 employees almost all the time. But I got 4 boys that live out here in Morgantown with me, so I'm right on the Johnson County, Morgan County line, out on 425. But I wanted to stay in the law enforcement. I didn't want to get out completely because I went through all the training, so I didn't want to lose that. And Morgantown seems like a good old town, so I'd like to be able to join in with Marshall.
Well, did you guys have any questions for him? If not, then get your approval to proceed to the next step. Any questions?
Well, we have your recommendation, don't we? So.
Think so.
No, I would move that we accept him on reserve for Marshall.
Mr. Wheeler, okay. Is there a second? Okay. Discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. So, welcome.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming.
I'll take it. Okay. Have a nice afternoon.
Give me a call tomorrow.
actually up from 10, and I have written down. Total citations last month, 3, 2 of ordinance violation of state statute, 1 warning issued. And that's really all I have. Sharon, I want to let you know that I spoke with Scotty Hamilton today with the sheriff's department, and he's going to resubmit that bill to us, that grant money, so we can get that paid. What's right with that? That's all I have.
Okay, anybody have anything for Marvin?
I do.
Okay,
To my neighbors, I talked to them about basketball and court, and I guess, I think it'll change too since school started, but they said,
Yeah.
you know, I talked to you before about it, the kids are still playing 11 o'clock, 12 o'clock, you know, midnight, and these people have to get up in the morning. And I just wondered if we could lock it. Let's see, maybe just see how it goes since school started, but I know the kids are, this Kim told me the kids are shining their car lights on the basketball court. And I just wondered, could we just lock it at night, say a certain time, 10 o'clock, or whatever?
I mean, sure, if the council wants to.
What do you guys think
I
about
know they
that?
close.
And then whoever's on the
I've been
morning.
trying to catch Jason, talk to him about it.
Yeah, he goes
I'm
there.
sorry to catch him, I mean, he's never out. And Commerce says there's no problem. So,
Well, according to Kim, said that she's talked to him twice.
she has spoken with Commerce too?
Yeah, she said that he couldn't do anything about it, so.
how about you talk to Kim?
Okay.
Okay?
Yeah.
I'll talk to her, we'll go another month, see how it goes, and then I'll bring that to the next meeting. Talk about
Okay,
maybe
good.
locking the gate.
Because they're throwing trash, she said, they're, you know, throwing her back in behind her shed, and here's that basketball bouncing and belts.
That should get better this week.
That's what I thought, so.
Well, you never know. Okay. Okay. I passed this out, and I told you earlier we were talking about. Anyway, I went through today and did, now this is just my estimate. I don't know. But our expenses for the remainder of the year. And over here at our December balance before taxes, our taxes, and what our estimated year-end balance will be, and what it was last year. And I think we'll probably be anywhere between 20 and 24,000 better shape than we were last year end. And we have talked about a part-time deputy, and I plugged the part-time deputy in here, 15 hours or 20 hours a week at $15 an hour. And we would still have that much of improvement over the previous year, hiring the second deputy. And I want to bring that up because we have talked about it this year. You know, we cut the budget last year. We didn't want to, but we had to. Well, we can't afford to hire a full-time. We might be able to take a baby step and hire a part-time. And I wanted to bring that to you guys for discussion.
My part of the discussion is great. We've needed a third deputy ever since we lost it. And there's a lot going on here in the last shift. It doesn't always get covered by the reserves. So I would think if we can afford to do it, we should.
Well, I mean, we made some drastic cuts. We cut all across the board. We all know we went through all that last year. And, I mean, 6,000, for the amount of the year, I think it's doable. It's up to you guys. What do you think?
You're talking for the balance of this year's 6 hours.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
And we'll still,
And we'll still be in
we'll still
good
like
shape.
that better than last year, much better than last year. Unless we have, I mean, our insurance is paid, right, Shannon? We don't have that yet. I mean, our biggest
Is there a car problem at all? Or-
There is a car problem. I'd really like to address that position first. I think that's most important. But then, shortly after we address the car, because if we're going to have that position, we can have a little bit better.
Yeah.
But right now, they would just use the same car we reserved.
Have you said, he would get a ticket car.
Yeah.
He'd be sharing that car.
I reserves it, or
I mean, I could users? Well, we approved 15 total, counting myself, Jeff, and everybody. I think we have, well, not counting him. When you say active, you mean on their own? Or
Ones that can actually come out and work and they're doing it.
okay, probably 8 or 9. And we still got some that are still at the that can't work on their own yet. So, but they all will still share that.
Those 9 work 8 hours a month or something. or
16.
16.
Do you
Now, I
have,
will have to say though that I currently have 3 on suspension. One's on indefinite suspension, and the other 2 were on a 3-month suspension. One of those I just brought back and made them active as of the first, which is one that's still out. That I think I got 2. I don't expect one of them to come back.
so actually your 9 figure, it's not really 9.
Correct.
Yeah.
Like 6, and then plus 1's
Yeah.
7, plus 1 that just.
Yeah.
And don't you still have 1 or 2 that still run around?
Yes.
That aren't on their own yet?
Yes. Nick Manningham's one of them. I would like to keep the car in mind though, because the car they are sharing, the pool car is 07 with 140-some thousand miles. And the air conditioning's out right now, that I'm not going to have that fixed by the weekend. So we'll definitely have to be thinking about that, but their position is more important.
Are the weekends pretty much covered with reserves or?
Not really. With the recent schedule changes I made with Officer Connors, it makes it more applicable for,
What's he working in?
I don't know, say right now.
Okay.
Well,
Yes.
no.
No.
Okay. I'll be with you later.
I think he's kind of nervous as he goes around. That's pretty good. Okay, so,
They're slapping or something.
You'll never catch me.
well, I'm going to stick my head out there and make a motion that we hire a part-time deputy at $15 an hour, 20 hours a week.
I'll second.
Okay, discussion?
It wasn't that long ago, we just had to get rid of the one.
That was full-time though. That was a lot more
And
money.
benefits.
And
And he
benefits.
was using gas.
This is part-time, so there's no.
This is a lot less money.
Yeah.
And don't take over fire.
And we're healed a little bit from
Yeah.
where we were.
We cut. Any other discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. No? Okay, no for Mr. Setzer.
Oh, boy,
Yeah.
Join the club, man.
We've all been out there before. Okay.
I thought I was the only quarter one out of
No, you're not the only one, trust me. I'm sorry. Anything else, Martin?
That's all I have.
Okay. I had Dan on the agenda, but you didn't have a report. So we'll move on, Lee, to, that's right, you didn't have a report, right?
I just would like to mention that the floodplain ordinance will be, the Plan Commission will review it at the next meeting on the 14th, and I'll make sure Lee, as well as you, get a copy after that. They looked at it a little bit the last meeting, but they'll get the final draft this next meeting. We also are looking at an update or kind of an amendment to the fee schedule. It's all in draft form, and it's not a dramatic change, just cleaning some things up, and we'll bring that to you too when they approve it.
After they approve it, you'll take it.
I would also like to say that it's a sign of a healthy board when you have dissension like that, healthy dissension, that's a good thing.
Well, thank you, Mr. Bennett. Okay, nuisance ordinance, Lee.
Unless it involves on. Unless it involves on.
The last meeting we had, we discussed the nuisance ordinance, and what I've done is copy, just send these right to it. On the top is the town's current ordinance, behind it is state statute that's incorporated, and I looked at several different towns. One is Brownsburg, one is Greenwood. I would suggest that you take these and look at them tonight. What you'll find is the language is very similar to Morgantown's. I think they probably all are kind of from the same era, and all of these communities are close enough together that a lot of the language looks very much alike. There are some additional ordinance sort of subject matters, and some of these, some are discharging firearms, some are burning, some are noise nuisances that we don't really have in Morgantown. And there also are penalties for violations set in those as examples to compare to ours. It's an issue too, and I know we can only do so much within a certain amount of time, but at some point we're supposed to codify all our ordinances too. And before we do that, we really need to have some of this resolved. The issue of ordinance violations and Ordinance Violation Bureau has come up. But I don't have a sense for what's being written in the way of local ordinance violations anyway. And probably need to talk to Marvin about that. And there are different ways for violations to be paid, but I don't know that any are been written. And the only time that the town is to collect any fines for violations are if they are our own local ordinance. So nuisance violations would be an example of that. I don't know about parking. I don't know about this would be kind of like nuisance, like animals, leash laws and confinement laws and things like that. I'm trying to think of examples of other towns where we have some local ordinances that end up being the subject of local enforcement and the imposition of what tends to be, a $20, $30 fine or something like that. But and I've got the weed ordinance here too, which is sort of another example addressing a similar issue. Is you have the authority to have some local rules that are tailored to Morgantown, and those are going to look very much like lots of other places, and you'll see that in these examples. But at some point, and budgets get in the way, and outfall structures get in the way, but at some point, when we can turn our attention to what do we want sort of our local book of ordinances to look like, our town code for Morgantown, we need to figure that out, and then think about how you want to go about trying to enforce that. And I don't get the sense that there's a great need to do a lot more than what's being done. It's just when ordinance violations do occur, when they are written, we need to know where we're going with them and what we want to get accomplished, and we need to have a fee schedule set. And knowing what other communities sort of close by are doing is always helpful to kind of, so you're in the market, and so I gave you examples of that. So take a look at it, and then we can start to move through it. The ordinance we have now is okay. I think the one flaw that I mentioned last time, and I was supposed to have had this fixed, and I just honestly forgot, was there's a reference in our current ordinance to the term occupant, and then it says occupant includes contractors and the owners, but it doesn't actually define occupant as the person who's occupying the property. Kind of like, well, it's so obvious that that's what that means. We're not going to define it, but we'll include other people under it. We need to fix that, no matter what that needs to be fixed. But the rest is sort of for you to make some decisions about. So as you have time, like all of you do, just fiddle and look for interesting reading. Quit watching the Kardashians chat and do your homework. And then the weed ordinance, I've got it again. This will be about the 10th time you've seen it. And it's on long paper because I'm too stupid to change the symbol. And instead of throwing them away, I just brought it down here. But when we get down to it, I'll get it on the right size paper. You've been over this, and looking back at the minutes, I think the only issue that was unresolved on this was what you wanted the height of the grass to be in order for it to, be sort of unacceptable. And all real estate improvement are within we've got 10 inches in height here. And if I remember correctly, at the last meeting we had this, and we talked about, I think we walked away asking all of you to decide what do you think that height ought to be. second reading at the next meeting, if you know what you think that should be. 10 inches is pretty tall. Some of them say 12, some of them say 6. You know, I mean, we're not Beverly Hills, and, you know, we don't have that little bent grass that you cut with a reel mower, and it's like putty green, but I don't think we want people wandering around our front yard in knee-high grass either.
For what it's worth, the Plan Commission concluded 9 inches in their discussions through that year process.
Well, we can go ahead and pass this on first reading, and then if you want to change it, we can, as properly as 10.
Let me ask Dan real quick. What do you mean that it's, how's the Plan Commission enforcing?
Oh, they're not involved at all, but we were thinking about being involved earlier on.
All right, so all I'm saying is if we've got this somewhere else, we want it to be the same.
Yes, no.
It's not, okay.
It's not. Yes, absolutely, we want to be the same. There was a discussion about it, 12 inches being a little tall, like you just mentioned.
Yeah, well, and I think we have already changed it to 10 through discussions before.
I think that was your recommendation.
And maybe I went back after our last meeting the next morning or something to change this and don't remember doing that. But that, I think, is the one decision you all need to make, and we can adopt it at least tonight on first reading. If you want.
I think 10 inches is fine. Anybody else? Okay, anybody want to make a motion? We'll take this on first reading.
That's about 14 inches.
Oh, this is 8.5 by 11.
That's it.
8.5 by 11. Okay, so
That's what's,
Cornfields,
I ain't even gonna say that.
cornfield.
Chad made a motion. James made a motion, Walter seconded. Is there discussion?
Do you have any idea what this ordinance is?
No, that doesn't work.
It's ordinance 2014, and we'll assign a number to it. And it's an ordinance to require on the real property cut or new weed and rank vegetation for the property, and rank vegetation, weeds, and